Welcome to the Boring AI Show, the podcast for people who want to understand AI beyond the headlines. We talk about the useful, messy, funny, and very human side of bringing artificial intelligence into the real world. Now, here are your hosts, Tim and Tally.
All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to a mini episode. We're now conducting the mini series as we announced last week. To our surprise, there was actually not a virtual element to yesterday's AI for Good Summit. So surprise, exactly. So today's going to be our first coverage mini episode, recording this on July 8th, and I'm joined here by Tim.
Hello. Hey, everybody. So yeah, it was quite a surprise, especially because the conference is in Geneva time. And I did get up for the conference to start at 8 a.m. Geneva time. And being a Baltimore person, I'm on New York Eastern time. So it was 3 a.m. And that, was not super pleasant to see. There was nothing to get up for. So yes, long day. And today, same. So good times. But yeah. And Tally, you're on, mountain time. So it's
I am. So I am curious to hear, because I did not wake up at 1 a.m. because I do need some sleep. So I'm curious, Tim, if you caught the beginning. I started a little bit further in, and, I want to touch on some of our key takeaways. But before we jump in, I want to see what your overall takeaway was, especially considering the start of the conference today.
Yeah. So first off, everybody, we were clear, hey, we're recording this at the end of the day, and we're just going to hit the highlights. So we don't have all the details, but we'll make sure to put them into the show notes as we update and circle back around when we have more time. But we're trying to get this to you in timely manner, so bear with us as we get all the information. So some of the speakers this morning, I don't remember their names, so I apologize. But one that stood out to me. So first off, the very early part of the morning was a recap of yesterday. And so yesterday was a lot of innovation sessions and competitions and some very neat stuff, and some very brilliant students showing some amazing work that they've done in AI research, and is a really super, super big highlight on a lot of the innovation that's happening in Africa around AI, and what the students, various students, groups that were coming and demoing from Kenya and Rwanda. It was really, really impressive to see, what some of these students were cooking up around, whether it's farming innovations or agriculture innovations or industrial innovations around manufacturing. It was really, really cool stuff. So
very cool.
That was neat. But the talk from early in the morning that really stuck out to me was, and this is where, again, I should have my notes, but I don't. So I want to say either president or prime minister, I'm not sure what's the right term, so I apologize, from Iceland. And she was an exceptional speaker. I was really impressed with her delivery of her presentation. But the message, which really resonated with me, is, hey, this AI world we're building it and recognize that the people who are middle-aged are building it or older, but we're building it and our kids are going to live in it for decades to come. So get the youth involved now. And it throws me back to the Towson, AI for Humanity competition, Tally, what we were cooking up there,
Absolutely.
to get the youth involved. And so I talked to a couple directors of IT and CIOs that I know today, and other leaders in AI space. And this was one of my main themes: is what are we doing to get the youth involved, and not just hey, let's play with AI. It's, hey, we're thinking about these rules for the companies. What do you think about that? I think it's really, really an interesting moment. And I was very impressed with this concept and how it was framed by the leader of Iceland. So that was really cool.
No, I love that. And I noticed, so you can see in the app for this event, there's a series of different stages. And one stage is actually the youth stage, which I think is really cool. And to your point, Tim, having, that next generation have a voice and also making sure that our current existing leaders are thinking long term for that next generation. I think a lot of times we're just running forward with things because we're just trying to check off the checklist and get things done without actually thinking about the longer term impacts of, what's going to happen to our business if we implement, a certain solution or things like that. So really making sure we're thinking about that longer term impact is key. Yeah. And having that next generation as part of that conversation, I think is really, really critical. So I love that was a part of this.
Yeah, me too. And did you see, Tally, who was the sponsor of the youth stage? Super
I
cool.
didn't. Who is that?
Lego.
Oh, there you go. There we go. I love to see it. Amazing.
So for those who don't know, we are big fans of Lego Serious Play in our AI upskilling workshops, and love to bring in Legos to help with the communication and the breakdown of fears and concerns around AI for people to navigate their feelings around that using Legos. And a lot of times when we mention it to people, we get eye rolls of like, are you serious? But then when people see it and experience it, they're like, wow, that is really, really cool and really useful. So it's awesome to see.
Love that. Awesome. Well, what was your any other, I guess, major takeaways from today that you think would be critical to folks to hear? And as Tim mentioned, I also am not the best with names, so if we miss any speaker names, we'll try our best to post them after the fact, or follow up with that information for everyone.
Yeah, and so Tally and I have been in this conference and other meetings all day today. So this is we're recording this at 4 p.m. Eastern. So it's it's been a long day. So bear with us as we are multitasking and trying to get you the latest news. So yeah, I don't know what time you joined today, Tally, but if you didn't see, I hope they have the recordings of this stuff so we can go back and replay it. But the Mark Benioff, CEO of Salesforce, founder of Salesforce, and Nicholas Thompson from The Atlantic, their conversation about AI regulation was conversation/argument was really, really excellent to see and hear their perspectives. Both very well articulated, both very thoughtful, and both very different. Where Mark Benioff was focused on, basically the question was the disabling of Fable handled properly and well? Was it handled well by the U.S. government? And Mark Benioff was saying that he was very appreciative that the U.S. government stepped in to assess a risk and shut things down. And Nicholas Thompson was he was appreciative of the concept, but critical of the execution, and basically said that this is, how this was handled is problematic, because now you have all these businesses that are saying, wait, you mean the U.S. could shut down access to our AI models at any point? Maybe we need to have our own AI models. And so the question being, was that exercise actually good preventative exercise for the level of risk it posed, or did it really just create more friction around the United States and what's happening in the U.S. with AI models? So it was a really interesting and I got a little heated conversation. So I would highly recommend reviewing that recording if for anyone, if you can get access to the talks.
Yeah, no, I think I joined right in the middle of that. And it is interesting to see, again, for me, it is exciting to see people so passionate about their views and also willing to try to. I noticed the moderator a few times asked, something along the lines of like was there something from your opponent's side that you agree with? And it was just a really interesting bridge of really trying to understand all perspectives in a way that, yeah, I think was pretty telling to have this space to have, like you mentioned, those heated or passionate disagreements. I think was, yeah, really useful.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite session? I am betting you and I had the same favorite session, but I don't know because we were like chatting about it as
Yeah.
the day was going on. But what was your high point here?
No, yeah, I messaged you because I was genuinely excited to hear that piece being brought up, and it was something that we've actually talked about before and was brought up in a previous MIT conference that we went to around different trust models. And it was really talking about how, and I know we've mentioned in, I think it was the prediction episode, around a real pushback around AI. And a lot of this is because people don't trust AI. The second they see that AI was used to create certain things, there's almost like this like disgust or like eye roll moment almost that happens. And I think that there's this um really interesting distrust that's happening. And they went through similar to the conference that we went to in Boston. They went to different trust models, so talking about how, a while back there was local trust where you'd really trust the people around you. You're somebody who is present in your neighborhood. And then it moved to more institutional trust, trusting, authority figures or certain education systems or, different religious figures. And then, currently, maybe just before AI, there was distributed trust. You see something that has a 5-star rating. Ooh, if this has 100 ratings and they're all 5 stars, this is probably a great product. Well, now that's being dismantled because AI, there are bots in there who are I think Amazon um
It's like
took down, I forget the number. I mean, it was
23 million or something like that.
23 million false rating or like
Yeah,
the
reviews.
human reviews, which is wild. And so, and I know in my circle, we're always hearing, do you actually trust all those reviews that are out there? And so how do we build that trust, And it was just a really interesting conversation around what the speaker called verifiable trust, like we're now moving into this era where if we could verify all these reviews are human, I would be really willing to trust it. Or if there's, maybe a key influencer who I really trust who's buying into this and I can see them, uh, whether it's in person or some verifiable source that shows this is not a deep fake and that they're, saying that this is trustworthy, then you'll buy into it. So it's really the idea of trust to me is really, really interesting. And I think it's going to be a critical piece, not only for businesses as we think about, client trust and internal trust, but for society. I mean, how we buy into certain systems and, what knowledge we choose to believe and trust, I think is going to be really huge. So for me, that was the piece that really stuck.
Yeah,
stuck.
I thought that was really, really a cool presentation. And the presenter was a leader from Amazon, talking through this, and I also found it. I always find it interesting when the speakers kind of dive into their history, their professional history of like where they came from, and he was talking about like working with manufacturing and airplane parts and how do you verify, and it's kind of important there. But two things that stuck out to me, with that is just last week I was doing a upskilling session, and I made that point of like, why do you trust that I know what I'm talking about? Like to the audience, like you trust because I've been invited here by this person, and I'm standing up in front of the room, and you just assume I know what I'm talking about. Like that's trust in action, And so, comparing that with AI of, well, why do we trust the AI system? Well, why do you trust me? Like where's that trust come from? And then the other thing too is, I'm not a reviews person. Like I don't read product reviews to make decisions. And so, I don't, I don't know. I found that very interesting. And I know a lot of people do, but again, it's kind of like, eh, it's not that I assume they're all fake. It's just, that's nice what other people think about stuff, but it's not necessarily a benchmark for me. I don't know. So I thought that was interesting.
How do you decide which products to get? You just kind of, go purely off the features. I guess for me, it's interesting because not only reviews, but I'm also, I'm trying to think. I think this weekend we were talking about like our favorite, like it was like sunscreen brand or something like that. And for me, it's like I love, like I have one friend who's a dermatologist, so of course I'm going to listen to, so it's interesting. There's maybe more weight that you put on it, but like my own social circle, I really, rely on their reviews for sure. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, I don't. Again, going back to trust, like, and for me, books, I'm like a I definitely would be what people refer to as a book dragon, like as a, as opposed to a bookworm. I buy lots of books. I read most of them. And we go there. So like when I walk into Barnes and Noble, it's I walk right past like the sections where they have all the books on the tables, because those are all paid like placements. And so it's just kind of like, okay, yeah, we can ignore that. Same with Amazon ad links. When I search for something, rarely am I taking the top few things because they're all sponsored. And so it's word of mouth for me. Again, that thinking about trust models, so I trust like people I know who've said, hey, this is a good book, you should check it out, or this is a good movie, you should check it out. But also, I'm a big fan of just exploring. I don't mind. I used to go to Target like back in the days with CDs, and I would just like pick out a CD I wanted to get, like, because I knew the people, and then I would pick out something I'd never heard of to try it out. And that's always served me well. So I don't know. I guess I'm more adventurous in my product selection. Um, that's the way to think
Fair
about
enough.
it. So,
Love it.
but yeah,
Awesome.
what about the Pope? Man, the Pope was lots of talk about the Pope this afternoon after lunch. I feel like it was all about the Pope. So,
Well, it was interesting to me because I thought it connected a little bit to that trust model and that,
mhm.
this is an authority figure that, we keep saying, why does this keep coming up? But, this is a huge figure that I think people really, put a lot of weight on those words. And so what's being spoken by, by the Pope is taken really seriously by a lot of people. And so understanding, you know, um, how he thinks about it and is yeah, really, I think, pertinent to, especially for a global conference, I think is he's kind of a global figure in a lot of ways. So it's interesting. It's definitely repetitive, but I think highlighting that, kind of that trust, that institutional trust model from the Pope himself. What was your thoughts on that piece?
So for the listeners, like this is like in the afternoon, the Pope's encyclical came up multiple times through different speakers and panels. And one of the panels was all about the encyclical, I think, if I remember correctly. But
Yeah.
what I think is interesting is the Pope, is, as long as I've been an adult, the Pope has been a figure that people are like, oh, the Pope, and the Pope is doing stuff and the Pope's interesting. But like, this is the first time that I have experienced where the Pope has done something, produced an asset, and like industry has taken notice. And it's not, again, everybody, but I do think the examples that were talked about at the conference today, where there are developers who are saying, does this align to, hey, I'm working on this technology. Does this align to what the Pope was putting out as the vision? And I know for ourselves, I mean, we had a pretty long conversation about the encyclical and what it means and how it impacts. And it does very much align with our message at Mind Over Machines around the value of humanity and the importance of bringing your human self to work. So, I thought that was really interesting. I also thought that the people who were talking about it were talking about it in actually executable terms, not just theological or philosophical terms of like, yes, this is important, but there were actual examples of, and here's how to do this. And so, one of the things you and I have talked about before, but it was brought up today, was like the value of humanity in work and the value of thinking and critical thinking. And so I posted this on LinkedIn earlier, your human muscle, like being more human. And how do you do that? Well, critical thinking, community, connection, like these are critical things to be working on. So it was really exciting that people were talking in practical, like, here's how to do these things. I thought that was really interesting. So,
Yeah, agreed. And it's interesting. I mean, even the idea of like, there was a speaker actually after that who was talking about, AI in the environment specifically. And he mentioned, make sure, like, tell AI what to value and make sure it's aligned with our values. And there's, a lot of that might be an oversimplification of perhaps some of the issues folks were trying to raise. But I think that's interesting because in order to do that, you have to align on what your values are. And I think right now what's tricky is there are differing value systems. And so even in the case of the Pope, how do we make sure that this aligns with what's best for humanity? I think a lot of people would have maybe different approaches or even fundamental values for that. So I just think that raises something that, I know we work on with, different businesses of just making sure that you're really clear on what your organization values so that you can then align all your tools to that value or that mission statement. But I think in order to get there, it's not always as clear cut as I think we think it is.
Yeah. And keeping in mind scale, right? Like your organization's values might not manifest at OpenAI or Anthropic in how they train the model, but you can implement things like these are the standard instruction sets. Like when you think about Claude for the teams and for enterprise, you can create instructions that are for the entire organization, and so using this and creating agents that are for the entire organization. And so as you're thinking about this, thinking about how you encode your values into some of these instructions and into some of these behaviors as you're going forward and designing out your agents and recognize you might not be able to control the value of every piece of the AI supply chain, but do what you can in your neck of the woods. And I think that's really, really critical. And making sure that everybody understands what those values are. I mean, like with Mind Over Machines, on every slide we have, it's transparent, human-centric, data-informed, stated. Those are our values. And that's what we strive for. We talk about it. I think this goes back to like culture and making sure that your culture isn't just a poster, that people actually know what matters to you as an organization. And then codify it in your interactions with your employees, but also with your interactions with AI.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I think that's what all, this whole summit's about. So I'm excited to hear the rest of the week. And I know, I want to be cognizant of time since this is a mini series, but Tim, is there anything else that you think viewers want to hear about or would be useful to recap today? And then also, as always, please don't hesitate to reach out. I know this is just a mini recap, but if any of these pieces sound interesting to you or you'd want to hear more about them, please let us know. It's really helpful information.
Yeah, I think the key thing for people to, I really struggled with whether or not to go in person to this conference like this year and, thinking about like, should we go? I think for next year, I'm like, yeah, no, we need to go. Like, this is exactly aligned to like what we talk about and what we do. I have been very impressed with the level of passion, like you had said earlier, Tally, like these really passionate speakers and really passionate people talking about AI far beyond like the latest capabilities of, Fable or, what's coming with 5.6 Thursday or whatever. It really is focused on the big ideas around AI and what does it mean to be human and what does it mean for society. I love that stuff. And so this conference is asking those questions, but I was also really impressed that it's also answering those questions and saying, here's what we think, not just let's stargaze and wonder what could be. It's like, no, here's what you need to do. Here's what we're going to do as a collective. So I've been very impressed with the content, both what's being shared and the ideas that are being put forth. I don't agree with all of them. I don't agree with some of them, or strongly disagree with, but I felt like, okay, this isn't just a show and tell. This is big thinking for people who want to make a big difference, which I really appreciated. But how about you?
Yeah.
Where do you end in on day one with?
No, I think that's a big piece, and allowing people to have the conversation across different kind countries, ages, having all of the voices at the stage, I think is really helpful too, to get different perspectives and maybe hear things or think about things a little bit differently than we have in the past. I think that's been really exciting. It's just all the different types of voices present here. And just the excitement. I mean, you can really feel how much people care about this. And to me, that's the best thing about humans is, how excited they get about, not only finding solutions, but also just our society, the community, the greater humanity. And it's, it's a really cool thing to witness. So I'm really, really excited for tomorrow to see what tomorrow holds.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that tomorrow we get to see some more of the art and the performance exhibitions. Like, that's the one thing I'm definitely like, I really want to see that, like, as we're getting going here. But yeah, I'm looking forward to tomorrow. If it's anything like today, it's going to be quite a day. So can't wait.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you tomorrow, and as always, don't hesitate to reach out or.
Long day, Tally. Long day.
I know it really has been. I'm like, what time is it? Please don't hesitate to reach out. I know we sound tired, but we're really, really passionate about this stuff, so we really do care and want to chat through this with like-minded folks. So please reach out.
Yeah, and any questions you guys have, we will be going through this quick. So. Post comments, do all the rituals, like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. So
awesome.
All right. Cool. Thanks, everybody.
See you guys tomorrow.
Thanks for joining us on the Boring AI Show. Practical AI minus the hype. Subscribe, share it with someone on their own AI journey, and we'll see you next time.